I'd like to welcome everyone on behalf of Weave. We are very fortunate to welcome Deborah Nash today, who will be our speaker for the topic People Work, Not Paperwork, Improving Processes for Patient Care. Deborah, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Try and say that title 3 times fast.
I won't even try. Before we get started, I'm just going to mention a few things for our viewers. If you are viewing live, you should see if you want to have any questions, please put them in the chat. Deborah will be very interactive throughout the course, and then we will also reserve some time at the end for some questions. Likewise, if you are viewing live and you have more information about Weave in general, you can see there's a button at the top where you can request a Weave demo and get a little bit more information and actually see some of the features which Deborah will mention live. Once again, I just want to welcome Deborah Nash. Deborah is one absolute fantastic Weave customer as well as a very distinguished speaker. She has served three terms as the president of the National Academy of Dental Management Consultants and has received many awards, everything from the K. Moser Distinguished Service Award to Top 25 Women in Dentistry to her favorite is the Gordon Christensen Lecturer Recognition Award. She serves on the board of the American Academy of Dental Practice Administration, as well as the Speaking Consulting Network. Deborah, I can keep going on. There's
I know. The longer you stay in the industry, the more awards. It's like give her another award. My gosh, I've been in the industry over 40 plus years, so I've been around a while. Yeah. And how exciting! Thank you. It's just technology has just exploded in our industry, which is making it faster, easier, better for us. And so I can't wait to share the next half hour or so with everybody. So thank you, Ryan. He's going to be controlling my slides. So I love the fact that I have a slide assistant with me today. So let's talk about, I remember 40 years ago, and you can go to the next slide, Ryan. I remember 40 years ago when, we had landlines and we had actually paper appointment books that sat on the desk. They were about 36 inches long. They were at least 3 feet long, and they were a week at a glance. And we had to make these big sweeping moves to change over to the following week. And we used a pencil with an eraser to change appointments. It was craziness time. And now we're so automated. And I think about the dramatic strides that we have made in the industry. And I'm thinking, I thought I pretty much had my act together way back in the day when everything was manual, and we became more and more and more automated. And I would just say that changes and innovation is happening so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with the consumer. I mean, we're now iPhone 14. So let's talk about patient communication and how we've streamlined that and we've refined that. I think it actually does put us on a competitive edge for our patients. I think, Ryan, shoot to the next image, because look what our consumers used to. How many of you who are watching this have paid a bill online? I did that last night. Made a dinner reservation online, sent a text message to a service provider with a question, reserved your transportation online, shopped online. Look at Amazon. Oh my gosh. I can't believe that I put in an order for something. Actually, it was a doggy toy. I ordered a doggy toy because she had destroyed her favorite duck. And I put it in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she got her new duck by 3 o'clock that afternoon on Amazon. Crazy what our consumers are expecting today. But here's a couple things that's important that right now we call today the now age. We have the millennials and we have the baby boomers, and we have the generation next year, but we really are at a now age with our consumer. They want it efficient, they want it effective, but the other thing that they want is they really want to engage in a relationship. They want the story. They want to feel something. They want to feel an emotion. If you think about it, why is TikTok so popular? It's because it usually evokes an emotional response to what you're seeing, whether you're laughing or you're crying, or it's cute or it's empathetic or sympathetic. People want that. The other thing I want to mention, especially since we're doing this with Weave today, we talk about automation, and I asked this question on this slide, and we'll move to the next one in a minute. How many of you wish you had a recording of a phone conversation to clarify or to retrieve information? How many times have there possibly been a discrepancy in what you were sure you told a patient and what a patient said that they were told? And man, wouldn't it be great if you could go back and say, let's listen to that conversation. That actually happened to me one time in a hotel when I could swear I requested connecting rooms, but apparently I requested adjoining rooms. There's a difference in the vernacular. So that was sort of interesting. Next slide, Ryan. So I think it's really important for why automation, and why is that so important? Because I'm talking about people work. I'm not really talking about automation today. And here is why they go hand in hand. Your patients want efficiency, they want an affordability, they want an experience with you. But here's what's really most important. 80% of why your patients are going to choose you is not based on your clinical abilities or your clinical aptitude. It's based on your ability to connect with them. So that there's a couple of elements of connection. There's certainly the automated element. We'll talk about that, scheduling online, texting to pay online, appointment verification online, Google review requests online. But what all that online automated does for us, it gives us the opportunity to focus our intention with patient communication, especially when they are in your office. So I'm not worrying about the back stuff. I'm not worried about the back work. I'm actually being able to focus on the patient who's in front of me, the intentional relationship that I have. So let's move on to the next image, and because here's what we're looking at. We want to talk about how our people work builds patient loyalty. So if we can combine our exceptional communication skills with technology, we can increase our productivity. And actually, statistics have indicated that we can actually, when we automate certain functions in the practice, we can actually decrease our paperwork by 3 hours per day. Now, what would you do if you had 3 hours per day? What could you do? Let's talk about how we could do new patient follow-up phone calls, how we could do unscheduled treatment follow-up phone calls, how we could create a better patient experience, a human better patient experience, because we are going to let automation assist us. And I think that's what we're really focusing on. And I want you to think about, something seemingly small can make a tremendous difference. There's a great book called The Tipping Point. And the question I ask dental teams is, what is the tipping point in your office? What are those things that you do that takes your customer service skills over the edge? And actually a term that I like to use oftentimes, how do you behave in above usual and customary way so that your patients understand and appreciate that your fees are above usual and customary? I use that term because insurance companies use that all the time. So do we demonstrate our quality of care and the service that we provide our patients? Do we demonstrate that we are doing it in an above usual and customary way? Which, once again, automation and what we can outsource, and we'll talk a little bit about outsourcing in a little bit, can help us create that extra point. So here's what's critical. People work instead of paperwork. I want to make sure that the first thing we're doing is we are communicating the heart and the soul of the organization. Hospitality comes first. Certainly, our systems are, once again, they're the backstory of what we do. I was at a new office yesterday. I went to a new dermatologist yesterday, and I walked in, and the first thing they asked me was for my insurance card, and they gave me a clipboard. Yeah, it wasn't very hospitable. I was like, I had sort of I didn't have an uneasy feeling, but I didn't have a happy feeling. I didn't have a welcome feeling about being there. It was average. It was usual and customary, but it didn't make me say, wow, I'm in the right place. So talk about what can you do for that when your patient walks in the door, say, yeah, I feel warm and welcome, and I feel like I'm in the right place. And it's not going to be handy asking for an insurance card and having paperwork thrust at me at a clipboard. So let's move on to the next. So make sure that hospitality comes first, and then your paperwork comes second. 85% of your connection with your patient is in communication. 15% of the time you spend with your patient is in clinical application. So think about this. We spend a lot of time understanding and appreciating the clinical application of what we do, and our fees are based on the clinical application. I mean, very quickly, kind of divert. Your fees are based on three things. Your fees are based on the time required, the skill required to do it right, the time required to do it well, and that the materials and the laboratories that you use so that your restorations are beautiful and they endure and they're long lasting. But that is not how patients judge you. They judge you based on, once again, how you communicate with them. So think about, if we utilized technology to automate processes, we can increase our effectiveness in what can't be automated and can focus on improving the human connection in our office. So think about those things. Next slide, Ryan, for me. I appreciate that so much. Here's why this is so critical, because in today's world, consumers have a higher customer service expectation than they did a year ago. 54% of consumers say they have a higher expectation. 33% leave a business because they don't feel that they were being well taken care of, or they feel like personalization was lacking. Once again, would I refer to this group that I was in yesterday? Not so much. And by the way, I didn't get a request for a Google review following my visit, which was sort of archaic. Who doesn't do that anymore? Look at this. Americans will pay 17% more to do business with firms with great reputations in customer service. It's interesting because when I went to find my little pet toy, I had a bunch of sites come up with this ducky image, but I knew if I went onto Amazon, I'd get it fast, I'd get it right. And they had all of my information logged in. So it was the easiest thing to do. 52% of customers say they increased their purchase from a company after a positive customer service experience. Absolutely. And look at this. Friendly employees or representatives are what make a memorable experience that causes consumers to stick with a brand. For 75% of consumers feel they stay with a brand because of how they were being treated by the team. So I want to get my team away from the paperwork processes into the people work process. So my patients say, man, I love these people. I love the way I feel when I walk in. I'm greeted. I'm welcomed. They're friendly. I mean, it's like the old, remember, some of you may be too young to remember the television series Cheers, where everybody knows your name. It's a friendly place that I walk into where I'm not asked for my information. My information has already been automatically completed online, and it's automatically been populated into my records. It's what patients have come to expect. So Ryan, let's take a look at the next thing. Here's something else. When we talk about automation, some of us are a little bit reluctant about moving forward with what we can do. Scheduling is a huge factor. Let's go back to OpenTable. Let's go back to American Airlines. Let's go back to Expedia. People like to be able to schedule appointments online. 90% of 1,100 patients surveyed prefer to have scheduling online. Once again, they consider it convenience as a most important factor in decision making. I mean, if I can schedule online, if I can schedule an appointment, or if I can schedule a dinner reservation in one restaurant and I can't in another, I might be inclined to reserve a table where I can make a reservation even when the restaurant isn't open. We'll talk about that in a moment, as opposed to having to wait for the restaurant to open and then call and make a reservation. So let's make sure that we have automated systems in our practice to schedule online. And also that gives us the opportunity for our appointment book to be open 24/7. I can reduce the number of phone calls per day if I can. I can reduce the number of broken appointments. And nowadays, and I got to talk about this for a minute for one of my clients, we want to make sure that we don't have to reduce chasing our patients to schedule appointments. And I have to mention, for example, I was in a client's office. I still do in-office consulting. And I was in a client's office in the Pacific Northwest a few weeks ago. And she had some changes in her recare schedule and her hygiene schedule. And she was getting on the phone. Now, I'll also say this. There's only one person in this office at the front desk. She has backup. So she's now trying to fill her hygiene schedule, getting on the phone. She's also trying to answer the phone of patients wanting to call and make an appointment, and she's trying to check patients in and out. So take a look at this. I've got this one person trying to do all of this. And if we even want to talk about staffing issues and not having the same amount of people available to do all of those tasks, she could have automated some of that. She could have done quick fill, and had that system automated where she wasn't having to call patients on the phone, hopefully reaching them, typically probably getting an answering machine. Could she have texted patients? Could she have quick filled automatically and saved herself, cut down at least one task of all those tasks she had to do? She could have cut down several more. And so it's like, wow, why didn't you automate that quick fill, that task of filling your hygiene schedule? It can be done. So Ryan, let's go on to the next. So let's take a look at what we want. Here's something else that we can automate. Online bill comprises more than 60% of patient payments. I had my hair cut today. I know, it looks great. I know, thank you so much. And while I was waiting, I have to make a confession here, because not only did I get it cut, but I had some little, color up here had to happen. We're not in the dental industry too long without some gray showing up. And while I was waiting for the process of color, what was I doing? I was on my phone paying my bills. So my text to pay, 47% of consumers like to swipe, dip, or tap their credit card. But once again, they love to be able to make their payments online if they can. So mobile pay is excellent, text to pay. And that also gives the patient the convenience of being able to pay their bills 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can pay their bill, their dental bill. And why is that important? Because here's what statistics have indicated, that most consumers, when they are online between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. Are you open between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m.? You're not. Can I make it a dental appointment between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m.? I probably could. In some offices that are automated that have those processes, could I pay my bill online between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m.? I could. What a great surprise to come in the morning and see that you've got patients on your schedule and you've got bills that have been paid while you were sleeping. Isn't that wonderful, Ryan? Next slide. Yeah. So I think that's important. Here's something else we talk about, and I know this is small text, but I think this was important because I was looking at the importance of insurance. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. I'm going to tell you it's water. It is. You can see in my cup. Although it could be a clear alcoholic beverage, but it's not. It's water.
We'll believe you, Deborah. We'll believe you.
Pardon?
We'll believe you.
Thanks. But I pulled this from Dentistry IQ because I think this was interesting. They were giving instructions about insurance and insurance verification. But look at this. And here's what Dentistry IQ says. Don't call the insurance company for a breakdown of benefits, especially to verify eligibility. You can see this. This becomes very time consuming. Do obtain benefits whenever you can. But look at this. If I can automate, well, first of all, look at her, how she looks. And I have done this back in the days. I was one of those people that was on the phone holding for MetLife for a live person. Nowadays, you can't even get a live person. You keep having to hit the button and you're yelling representative, 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 and you're listening to bad music. And, so man, if I can take that insurance coordinator who's stuck in her cubby or his cubby listening to bad music, if I can automate that process, I can take that insurance coordinator and I can have them do more hospitable services. I can have them do more patient-centric services. So once again, Dentistry IQ is recommending, can we automate insurance verification? Look at this. It saves a team member 2 to 3 hours per day, allowing them to focus on helping patients. So let's move on. Think about that. How can I automate insurance verification? It can happen. Oh my gosh, wouldn't life be so much easier? And what could I do with this person? And especially in today's world when we're all worried about whether or not we can staff our practice, if we have team members who can join us, if we have to downsize because we don't have the bodies, then how can I, oh my gosh, people, if I don't have the resources, the human resources to do all the tasks, what can I outsource so that I am not bombarding or burdening one or few people to do a lot of things. And a lot of people talk about burnout, and they talk about the great resignation and what is happening in terms of stress. Well, think about if I can automate some of these tasks that have been human centric or human driven, if I can automate that so they're automatically driven, they're systematically driven, technology driven, then my stress is reduced, my customer service is improved. I don't require as many people to do these tasks because I'm outsourcing. So talk about increasing my customer care and increasing my practices dependence on people to do these tasks when I can outsource them to technology. So let's take a look at what can I do to increase customer care. I'm going to challenge mediocrity and constantly look for ways to contribute to an exceptional experience for your patients. Keep asking yourself, what can we do to continue to improve, innovate for our patients that is noticeable? Can we become more patient-centric? What more can I do? And I think what's really important, normal isn't noticed anymore. So once again, yesterday I went into the dermatology office. I was asked to present an insurance card. I was given a clipboard with paperwork. Boring. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're probably they're nice people. I had a nice checkout, but am I a raving fan? And what we want to create raving fans. We want to create raving fans who are talking about you, who are if I'm a raving fan in your practice, what am I? First of all, I'm a patient who stays. I'm a patient who refers. I'm a patient who accepts my treatment plan. I'm a patient who pays my bill. So when we talk about people work, not paperwork, if I can automate processes so I can be patient-centric, then I will increase my patient loyalty as well. So take a look at it. What can we do that's abnormal? Here's the big question. Thanks, Ryan. How do we differentiate ourselves? Here's a team meeting question. Right now we're in almost the fourth quarter. We are in the fourth quarter. We're in the fourth quarter of 2022. So we should be planning what is going to be our 2023. What are going to be our strategic goals for 2023? This is the time to be thinking about it. And ask yourself this question. How are we going to differentiate ourselves moving forward? How do we provide the highest level of service when others are competing to provide similar services? And by the way, we're not even necessarily talking about other dental offices. We might be talking about other services. We might be talking about vacations. We might be talking about other elective processes in my life that I'm choosing. So take a look at excellent skills requires practice. Excellent language skills with your patients require practice. Excellent outsourcing requires practice. So how do you check every day to ensure that you are constantly committed to service excellence? And I truly believe, I'm a big fan of if I can outsource a process so that my team members in office can stay focused and intentional with talking to patients in such a way that the patient says, this practice is different. These people are different. I feel better when I am there. I believe in them. I trust in them. The team validates the doctor because they have time. They have time. So now I have time for conversation. I have time to extol the virtues of the practice. I have time to endorse the doctor. I have time to talk about why our systems work so well. So ask yourself the question, how are we going to change? How are we going to differentiate ourselves? And I truly believe it's going to be, what can we do to continue to improve our automation so that we can improve our customer service skills to our patient? Let's take a look at that. What can we do? Can we do online scheduling? Can we do text to pay? Can we verify our patient's insurance online? Oh my gosh. I know I'm talking with Weave right now, and we didn't say that we were going to focus on this, but right now, Weave is offering insurance verification online. So you can get all that information before the patient even walks into your practice. So take a look at what you're going to do to innovate moving forward in 2023. How are you going to change things? How are you going to make them better? how are you going to enjoy your practice better? How are you going to enjoy your patient satisfaction and your professional satisfaction? Because now you can increase your focus on patient care. People work, not paperwork. You're going to have more fun. I guarantee it. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. If we go ahead, we'll turn the time over for some questions. If you have some questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. But I just want to mention a few things. One, thank you very much, Deborah, for your time. Being in the industry for this long, you've seen a lot of changes through technology. What has been the biggest process work that you were able to automate that has made a difference in your practice?
Interesting. And by the way, maybe things we might not have mentioned, Ryan, is that I still do work in a dental office. My husband is a dentist. He has a dental practice. I will absolutely disclose that we've been a Weave user, I believe, since 2007, and we don't know what we would do without it. There are a couple things. First of all, if I really want to talk about Weave, and if I will say that outsourcing insurance is a huge game changer, but in our practice that's insurance free, that having my entire scheduling system and my patient base on my cell phone, I mean, this is my office right here on my phone. This is pretty amazing. And even, we all talked about during the pandemic, this was our office right here. And when the computers shut down, the computers break down, guess what? Here's my office right here. We did that for us. So that was a huge game changer. That was huge. So major.
Absolutely. Being able to check your schedule when I've talked to a lot of customers over the course of these last couple of months, and one of the things that they keep mentioning is every once they'll go home, work is done, but then they have that thought, what's my schedule like tomorrow? Crap, do I have time between this time and this time to go pick up my son from school because the nanny's out? And so they're able to pull up their schedule and take a look and see, and having that convenience of accessibility, it goes beyond, I think, a lot of our expectations of now how we are used to that type of expectation. We want to see and have that accessibility in almost everything we do.
Well, here's the other cool thing. If we want to talk marketing. In the old days, we used to give the doctors, I can't believe I have props around me. This is fun. Then we had doctors, we had them a piece of paper and we'd say, here are the phone numbers of the patients you need to call tonight. And they would take a piece of paper home. Now they can go on their phone. A couple things. They can call. Here's a couple of patients that need to be called. We certainly can call a patient after a difficult procedure. But imagine you're my new patient, Ryan, tomorrow, and I call you and I say, Ryan, hi, this is Dr. Nash. I'm looking forward to meeting you tomorrow. What questions can I answer before your first visit? Your likelihood to cancel that appointment is diminished by the fact that I reach out the day before. I can also call, if I'm calling my patients, I can call from my phone. The other patients that I want to call would be a new patient following their visit. And so I can do it all here. The other I have to also mention that I personally, and whatever protocols offices want to follow, whoever's responsible for the phone on the weekend, I've had new patients who will call after hours or on weekends, and I can call them back. And I say, I see that we missed a call from you. How can I help you? And they say, well, I was calling to leave a message about making a new patient appointment. I can't believe you're returning my call on the weekend. They can't believe that we are that accessible to them. And I say, you know what? We pride ourselves on being accessible to our patients as often as we can, as long as we can, as late as we can. And they're like, wow. So it's once again that personal touch that this system provides. Now that you've added once again the whole request for a Google review following my visit, I didn't get that yesterday. The fact that I can text to pay my pay. I mean, we have whatever office financial arrangements or financial protocols are in offices. Would it be great that if you are allowing, let's say that you're allowing your patients to make an initial payment and then you're submitting their insurance for what you estimated the insurance is going to pay, you get the check and the insurance check is less than you figured, the less than you determined. And now the patient has an outstanding balance. Well, I don't really have to send a statement. I can go on to my phone or onto my system and send a text to pay to the patient. I will have informed them before. If there's a discrepancy in what we determine the insurance was covered, we will, when we receive that payment, we will send you a notice and send you a link and how you pay the balance. I don't have to send a statement. I send a text. I mean, how easy is that? How simple is that? Fast is that? And patients are used to hitting a link and going to pay a bill. We do it all the time.
Absolutely. And the theme of your message was a lot of these conveniences that technology has provided is allowing people to free up some of these more tedious or manual tasks for that main purpose of when they're in their office, when they're in your office, they're there, you can talk to them, you can engage with them, you can ask about them. And so that you aren't, having to be interrupted and answering phones, or you have too many things to put down on, you have to send out all the bills and everything else on your list of to-dos. When that patient is in your office, you can interact and work with them, and that's how you strengthen that relationship. I had one doctor that said, and I love this quote, she says, people don't always know how great of a clinician you are. They don't have the the skills to analyze that, but they do remember how they feel and they remember their experience.
Well, that is absolutely true. Most patients aren't going to judge you based on I always say the tertiary anatomy of the crown. They don't know, they really don't know. They don't know the difference between a good clinician and a poor clinician or an average clinician unless my team tells me. Most doctors don't come in and say, let me tell you how great I am. But a dental assistant or a hygienist or a receptionist, a treatment coordinator can, let me tell you about our office and let me tell you what makes us exceptional. Now I can take the time to do that. I always say this, that a new patient phone call should never be interrupted. I should never have to place a new patient on hold. Well, the more processes that I can automate, once again, the more time I can spend with those patients, telling them what makes us great, talking to them about their treatment, helping them understand and appreciate the services that we want to provide. I always say this, my responsibility is to give the patient the information so that they can make the right choices for their care. I'm never going to tell the patient, this is what you need, or this is what your insurance is going to cover. My responsibility is to give you information and make you feel comfortable and confident that you've chosen the right office who's going to take good care of you.
Excellent. We have a question that looks like it's more of a personal question for you. It's in your office or the office that you've worked in, how are they delegating the insurance verification processes? Is it through one patient insurance coordinator or is it through several people?
Well, I'll talk about clients' offices, because to be candid, in our office, we are not in any network. We don't accept any insurances. So we don't have to worry about that. That's a whole other, we'll have to come back. So we are insurance free. We help and here's what we say to our patients, and I'll go in to answer the question. So we say, we will do our very best to help you receive whatever allowance you have coming. And we will do that. We will take care of that electronically for you. However, doctor made a decision over 40 years ago that he would not be compromised by the exceptions, limitations, or exclusions of any plan. So we offer our patients one standard of care, that is why we don't subscribe or we're not in network. However, for my offices that are in networks, typically, depending on size, and I work with some mid-market DSOs, and I work with some private practitioners. A lot of them are now outsourcing. There's some great companies that will outsource. They can outsource processes too, so they'll outsource to processes. In terms of verifying insurance, once again, I just can't imagine why I wouldn't automate my insurance verification. And now that you're offering this amazing, if I'm a Weave client, and I know that there's a ridiculously nominal fee to do that through Weave. And think about this. If I do math, let's say that I pay somebody, depending on where I live, let's say the average receptionist, insurance coordinator, front office business person is making anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour. And I'm going to pay that person to be on hold with an insurance company. If I can automate that for $60 a month, how much time did I save that person at $20 to $30 an hour that can be doing something that would be more significant and have a greater significance? I would, in the practice, I would much rather take that person's telephone time and say, let's talk about, we could even automate this too. But let's talk about how we do new patient telephone follow-ups, how we do unscheduled treatment follow-ups that we maybe have automated some, we're not automating all. So most of my offices, if they have a insurance coordinator, they have one, and most of them are outsourcing that process, especially now with the shortage of team members.
And the value you mentioned of saving time is not that that person now has no longer anything to do. We all know that administrative staff, front office, they have more than enough to do. They've got, a giant list of things they can never even get to just because they're stuck with all these other things. Now they can open up their time for more important, maybe revenue generating opportunities.
So here's an interesting case study. So I have a client, a very large office. They have 4 doctors. They have 6 hygienists. They get about 100 new patients a month. And they were actually manually in office doing their own insurance in office. It was horrible. Well, we automated it. We outsourced insurance, and those insurance processors, hail to those who love to do that. However, we turned those insurance processors into treatment coordinators. So now they are sitting down with the patient, reviewing treatment plans, committing the patients to their treatment, establishing their financial arrangements. So we repurposed them. And this, I will tell you, this office, their productivity increased by 39%. So we outsourced insurance, we repurposed them to be treatment coordinators, and they all have the desks where they were doing insurance coordination are now offices where the patient sits in with them and reviews the treatment plan and reviews the financial commitment.
That's perfect. And they get that more one-on-one time with the patient instead of being on hold with the MetLife or
bad music, MetLife. Yeah. And maybe I don't want to single out MetLife. They all have bad music.
Yeah. We're running out of time, but I did have one question I wanted to ask from a personal standpoint and from a marketing standpoint. Obviously, there's a lot of companies that are working on automating, digital forms, insurance verification, automated text, pre-appointment reminders, and Google review requests. Those are things that we've seen that are in the market now. What is something you don't see yet in the market, but you imagine is going to come within the next 5 to 10 years that you think is going to be the next step in terms of automation for dental practices?
Well, I think it's kind of in the works now, but I think it's going to become more prevalent, and that will be the patient taking a look at establishing outside financing, automating outside financing. Right now, CareCredit has a QR code that the patient can click on that QR code and go ahead and apply for financing. So I think financial arrangements and outside financing are going to become more automated than they are today.
I can definitely see that. And just having that, as you mentioned, if you can remove that barrier between payment and the payer, and it gets a lot easier, the more likely you are to get payments on time and to have people actually fulfill with some of the treatment plans that they may have had some payment financial barriers beforehand.
But once again, if we talk about this, we can have a whole other hour webinar about, we have to be comfortable talking to the patient about money. That requires a certain level of skill. But think about, once again, our fees are based on skill, time, and materials. And we have to demonstrate the value of our fee. Just a brief aside, and I know we have to kind of to end, but why do patients say they don't want radiographs and they don't want an exam? I just want to have my teeth cleaned. I don't want an exam. And some people say it's because they don't want to spend the money. That might be one part of it. I think the other part is they don't understand the value of the exam. It hasn't been explained to them that that's a critical piece of their experience in the office. And I think part of that is how the exam is conducted. Did we take the time? Are we doing the flashing blue light special dine and dash exam? And then the patient wonders why they had to pay $79 for the doctor to come in and say, how are the kids? Great to see you. Goodbye. So, I think that we have to have a kind of a clinical conversation about that as well. But I think we have to be comfortable talking about fees. And I think that the more we automate that, once again, your patients are going to expect to pay something. Figure out how to do that in an eloquent manner. And I think that's going to be become more automated.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Deborah, and thank you everyone for joining. For those that are either on live as well as those that are watching later on demand, if you have further questions about how specifically Weave can help you automate these processes, you can click on the Request a Weave demo button here or on the landing page in which you're viewing this video. Thank you once again, Deborah, for your time. We absolutely love talking with you. We love your insights, and we are excited for our next conversation.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye, everyone.